Hi, happy Friday, everybody. I am here with Heather from Glory Nutrition, and I'm super excited because she is one of my favorite people to follow. She's a fellow military spouse. If you don't know, we're a military spouse-owned business. And so she actually just moved to Alaska, which is really exciting. And she's here today to talk to us about nutrition, going back to school, all things about food and our kids as we enter another busy season in our lives. So, Heather, would you mind telling us a little bit about yourself and what you do?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you for having me in. This is the perfect time to talk about some of these habits, and especially for us just finishing a cross-continent move. It was about 4,500 miles. If we would have come straight here, we road tripped along the way. So we had an 8,000-mile road trip. So we've kind of like not been in a routine all summer. So we were very thankful to go back to school and get in a routine, but that's all parts of our routine, right? Homework, sleep, regular showers have to be a thing again. Like I can't hose them off outside, and then making sure we're getting meals. So this is perfect timing. And I love what I do. Like you said, I am a military spouse. I am a mom of three, currently living in Alaska. I'm a registered dietitian by training, and I'm actually a pediatric and family feeding expert. So that is my field. I've worked in WIC in a couple of different states, and I am working with a few military nonprofits to address military family food insecurity. It's a very real issue that military families face. About 1 in 5 military families does not have proper resources to feed their families. So busy families on a budget are my jam. So I am so glad to be able to bring in some of this content for your followers and for your group to give them some of these shortcuts to work smarter, not harder, and make life a little easier.
And Heather is amazing at what she does. She has such great tips. You need to follow her on Instagram, especially, and join her Facebook group because she gives such great tips for people who like she's not just saying it. I know a lot of people say like, oh, it's practical. Her stuff is really practical. And that's why I wanted her to come on today and talk to us. So Heather,
Yes,
we all want the best for our kids. That's
right.
one thing we all have in common as parents. So when it comes to food, in your opinion, what should we be focused on to give our kids the best?
I think it kind of changes by season, right? So right now we're in that back to school season, whether you're virtual learning or learning, doing homeschooling, you're going back to a traditional school, maybe don't have kids who are in school yet, and you're just getting into a fall routine, whatever that looks like for you. We have seasons where when you take an 8,000-mile road trip, it's okay to just be a little lax with the rules. Try to get in, the big main things, make sure they're getting protein, make sure they're getting fruits and veggies. But there's also times when we can approach what we want to be eating. So the biggest thing that I say, one is definitely know how to choose your battles with your kids, knowing when to do different types of foods, and to really focus on the relationship at meal times. So with this back to school, kids come home, they're overstimulated, their brains are mush. They want to sort of do the same thing we do. They want to take their bra off or get out of their jeans and get into their comfy clothes, right? So they need to come home and feel welcomed and feel peace. That's a really, really important part of getting back into that routine, is having an area where you can let your hair down and that you can relax. And so you don't want to create a situation at your dinner table where you are creating conflict. You really want to have that be, and whether you eat at a dinner table or your big family meal is breakfast or it's on the couch, I'll say dinner table as the sort of symbolism of a meal together. But you want to have relationship at mealtime, and you want to give your children the autonomy, the decision-making ability to decide what they're going to eat. So our job as parents, as caregivers, is to decide what's available and when. It's their job to decide if they're going to eat it. And that's okay. But when I let them do my job, right? Like I let them decide what we're eating. Okay, well, now there's a misbalance. Now they're doing my job. Or if I'm trying to say, you have to clean your plate, you have to try this food, you have to, you're not full, you're too full. Now I am trying to do their job, right? So we both have a job to do. My job is to present what's available and, sort of pre-approve those foods. And their job is to decide if they're going to eat it. But you have to have that balance. You have to have an environment that your kids feel comfortable and that they can express confidence in their decisions to say, okay, I'm going to try that, but I actually don't like that food. And then that can be okay. So that's the biggest thing in this season of back to school is just a good environment and letting your kid make decisions for themselves.
I love that. I love that you talk about jobs. This is my job. This is your job. I think that makes it a really easy thing to think about when we're thinking about what we need to do and what we need to focus on. And choice is such a huge, powerful thing, especially for kids.
Right.
Because if kids don't feel like they have a choice, usually there's a lot of pushback there.
Right. And we see so much in like body choice, right? If my kid doesn't want to hug their grandparent that they don't know, that's not a part, this great aunt that they've met twice, I'm not going to force my child to hug this to them stranger and tell this stranger they love them and to kiss them. Like, I'm not going to force my child to do this thing with their body they're uncomfortable about. Well, that comes into meals too. Why am I forcing my child to do something they're not comfortable with? I need to create an environment that they can explore new things, that they can make decisions for themselves, but they also have the ability to say, I'm not comfortable with that. I'm not going to do that. And know that there's no negative consequences for that. And there's something called positive consequences as well, which can have the same effect, where if they do try something new, this is the best. I'm so glad you tried that. Wasn't that so great? Okay. So now there's still that pressure, but when you remove the pressure from the situation, not saying that our kids just get to decide, what they're going to eat all the time. And there's not boundaries there, but once you create those safe boundaries and give them this area, they really flourish. There's tons and tons of research out there talking about it. I published a paper in PubMed back in April. I think it actually went to print the first week of May, but talking about the difficulties of the COVID-19 pandemic and feeding families and all of these different factors that have come in and made it more difficult. And these are some of the things we address in this paper, is just that decision fatigue and how do you still create that environment that's safe for your kids to make decisions for themselves without worrying about everything all the time.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Oh my gosh, decision fatigue is a big problem for us moms, parents in general, but especially moms or people who identify as moms during this period of time. Oh man,
yeah,
so hard. So we're sending our kids back to school to hopefully learn and grow and thrive. How does food and nutrition affect the brain and learning?
So if you try to think about a time when you didn't feel well, maybe you had a cold, maybe you were in college and you were hungover because you made bad decisions last night, whatever the case may be, right? Think about a time when the way that you were caring for your body or the status that your body was in, you worked out too hard, you're really sore, you can't move. Think about one of those times and how difficult it was just to get through your decision making. Like, you're trying to pay attention in lecture and you're 22 and hungover because it's a Thursday and you went out on Wednesday night, right? Like, these kinds of things, it makes it really, really difficult. So the way that we're caring for our body matters. If you stay up all night, it's going to be difficult to function. If you don't take care of your body, it's going to be difficult to function. And so nutrition plays into that, because you have to think of nutrition as the fuel for the machine. So if you think about your body, say like a car, right? Your car has a gas tank. You're not going to let it get down to fumes and then end up on the side of the road broken down. Like, oh my gosh, I have no idea why this happened. I bet there's something wrong with my tires. There's probably something wrong with my tires. And no, you ran out of fuel and your machine shut down. So the same thing happens with our bodies. You have to consistently give it the appropriate fuel, right? If you have an unleaded gas tank, do not put diesel in there. It is a really, really bad idea. Okay. Your machine is not going to work. So you have to be giving your machine, your body, the proper fuel. So things like protein, whatever kind of protein, kosher, vegan, plant-based, animal-based, whatever works for your family, you need some protein. You need to have color. Fruits, vegetables, sprinkles don't count. You want fruits and vegetables and bright colors. The more colors you eat, the more variety of different fruits and vegetables and vitamins and minerals you're getting. So you want protein, you want color, you want good sources of fiber. Fiber acts as a crap grabber, and literally in your gut grabs crap and moves crap to the other side. Okay, that's literally what it does. So when fiber isn't in there, when you're not getting good sources of fiber, all of that crap is sitting in the tube full of crap. Okay, so That's what your body is, from mouth to other side. It's one big long tube. So all of the crap is just sitting there. So you need fiber to move out the trash, to move out the garbage. It's called waste for a reason. It's literally our leftovers. Get it out of there. So you want some fiber to move the garbage out. And then the last thing is making sure that you're getting good sources of healthy fat. So when you've got protein, color, fiber, and healthy fat, whatever that looks like for your family, I would say with each meal, hit 3 out of those 4 on any given meal or snack. And that's going to give you that sustainable energy to get through the day. So if you're feeding a breakfast of, say, Cookie Crisp and like, I don't know, almond milk, which has no nutrition in it at all, your children aren't going to make it until lunch at 11. If you're giving them a sugary cereal with no protein in the milk at 7, they're not going to make it. So you've got to think about having these good foundations, these building blocks, right? That we need to build those bones, to build those muscles, to have good brain connections. You have to have the proper fuel to keep that machine running.
Love that. And so I'm assuming, because I was going to ask you about this, that breakfast is pretty important.
Breakfast is important, but that doesn't mean that it has to be big. My husband is not a big breakfast guy. His body, well, his brain, everything for him just doesn't really get functioning until he's been up for at least an hour. Like he and I both are night owls, but I have this like on switch where if I get woken up, even if that means I have a sick kid at 5 a.m. that wakes me up, like I'm up. Like it or not, my brain's like, yeah, it's go time. His brain's like, I'm like, my brain's on. I'm like, no brain. My brain's like, we got stuff to do, girl. Come on. His is like, no, we're not yet. So breakfast is important. So even if your brain and your body don't wake up right away, something really simple, like a small bowl of cottage cheese with some peaches on it, right? The cottage cheese you can get right out of the fridge. It comes in individual containers even. You can pay a little bit more and have them pre-portioned. Grab one of those, grab the individual container of peaches, right? If you have the flexibility in your budget that you can just grab the things that are, like, I'm talking about literally grabbing an individual peaches, grabbing an individual cottage cheese, putting it in a bowl and giving it to your kid or giving it to yourself. So it can be something as simple as that. It can be an English muffin with some peanut butter and some fruit jam over the top, a whole wheat English muffin. It doesn't have to be big. If you have giants who eat a lot, like I do, I've got to have like a 4-course breakfast. And anybody who's watching this, who has ever had a meal with the Campbells can attest that my kids can put some food away. So for me, it has to be pretty substantial, but I still go back to those same foundations: protein, color, fiber, healthy fat. If we're getting in 2 to 3 of those in each meal, then I know that they're going to make it through a good portion of their day with the building blocks they need to continue growing, to have energy and continue to function in their brain.
Awesome. And so, yeah, it doesn't have to be hard. And I wonder too, sometimes what I've decided in my house right now in this season is there are like 3 things that I serve my children for breakfast, and that's it.
Great.
And it's like taking away that decision of how do I hit those 3 things? How do I, what am I going to fix for breakfast in the morning? I know some people who will put up a menu of like, these are your 3 options for breakfast every day. Yep. And you can tell me what you want, but this is it.
Right. And then you're still getting that decision making with the kids, right? And it could even vary. And we do that too. We have 2 or 3 things that are going to be for breakfast each week. But what we had last week for breakfast, it might have been cereal last week. Cereal, cold cereal or hot cereal? Do you want, Cheerios with banana slices, or do you want oatmeal? And then the next week, maybe it's toast and bacon or something, but, giving them that decision-making ability and also just keeping it simple and exactly what you said, making some of those decisions easier. In my Facebook group, Smarter, Not Harder, that's what I do. I teach busy families how to work smarter, not harder. Let's not make this more difficult. Let's simplify as much as possible so that we can save our brain space for more important things, which as busy families, there's no shortage of things that are taking our brain space. So let's take some of those off the plate. Let's automate some of those decisions, make it easier, so then you can move on with your day. So yeah, if you have 2 or 3 things that work, and those school mornings, those work mornings, those are what you do. We save our big breakfast for the weekend. If I'm making homemade cinnamon rolls, it's going to be on Saturday or Sunday. Now, if I make them on Sunday, you're going to have leftover cinnamon rolls on Monday. Okay. Like, great. You get a cinnamon roll, but it's because I made it yesterday. tomorrow I'm making biscuits and gravy. My kids love, I make a sausage gravy from scratch. I'm going to make buttermilk biscuits. They love that, but I am not making that on a Tuesday. Okay. I'm sorry. It's not happening. You're getting biscuits and gravy on a Saturday when we don't have a soccer game to go to. Like tomorrow, we don't have anywhere to be. You're welcome. I'll get up and make you breakfast. But the other days, just keeping it as automatic as possible so that you can work smarter, not harder, and save your brain space for more important things. Absolutely.
So speaking of working smarter, not harder, the two things that seem like the most daunting tasks when we go back to school is school lunches,
right,
and then getting dinner into our kids as we're running to soccer or violin or whatever. Do you have like a couple of your favorite tips to work smarter, not harder in those situations for us?
Absolutely. So with lunches, if you are sending lunch with your child, look for those 4 things again: protein, color, fiber, healthy fat. Get those in that sandwich somehow, or in that lunch, however you're packing a lunch for your kids. If your kids happen to go to a school that has subsidized lunches through the U.S. Department of Agriculture, through the school lunch program, they have made school lunch free for this entire school year, again, for everybody. So we normally do not eat school lunch because we have to pay full price, and I'm not always confident in what they're serving and don't feel comfortable paying the price for what I'm getting. But for free, my kids can eat school lunch. So we currently eat school lunch. We eat school lunch. Occasionally we pack a lunch, but we eat school lunch. But when you're packing one, protein, color, fiber, and healthy fat. However that looks for you. Lunch is not the time to try to get your kids to try this new food, or this dinner that didn't go really well last night. We're going to send that for lunch, and they can. No, not the time. When they're learning all day, you need to just give them fuel that's going to keep them going. We're going to save those conflicts for times when we are in relationship together. I'm not putting that juju on, Mrs. Smith, the kindergarten teacher. I'm not going to expect her, like, she's keeping my kid from eating glue. I'm not going to expect her to fight him about, his lunch today. So that's, what I would say for lunches. And for those dinners, driving through or picking up something is just a reality. With the culture that we live in, we have multiple working parents, we have kids in all the activities. That's a reality. And so we have options to, one, pull back on activities and say, I don't want to do that many activities. I'm going to pull back from culture. We're going to be counterculture and be different, because this thing of only eating homemade self-grown food is really important to us. That's great. You're going to sacrifice somewhere else, right? Like now your kids can't do activities because you have to make this whole meal. But if you're like most of us and you're trying to balance it all, you can do things like drive through something for your main food and then finish your meal at home. So what we would do when we lived like by a Chick-fil-A, we would drive through and get nuggets, and we would skip the fries, skip the drink. You guys have your water bottle from, the baseball game. Let's get our nuggets on the way home. You can eat your nuggets. And then when we get home, we're going to get some apple slices, and I'm going to microwave a frozen bag of veggies. I'm a big proponent for frozen, the little steamable bags of veggies, but something like that, where it doesn't have to be either or. It doesn't have to be a burger and fries. Why can't it be a burger and carrot sticks and some grapes? We'll eat the burger on the way home. The hangry kids get satisfied. And then when we get home, I can give them these other things, right? So if you plan ahead, or have your ducks in a row, which I don't always because I have 3 kids, you can bring those things with you and say, okay, I've got carrots and grapes right here. We're going to drive through McDonald's. We're going to pick up burgers on the way there, and you guys are going to have fruits and vegetables with your cheeseburger. Well, I would serve a cheeseburger with fruits and vegetables at home. So when you can find a way to get those out of the house meals to mimic what you would serve in your house, that makes a big difference. But that also gives you the grace to realize at home, you could do frozen chicken nuggets for lunch. Like, it's the weekend, we're going to do frozen chicken nuggets, but we're going to do a fruit and a vegetable with it. I don't really care. And then when my kids ask for more, I say, okay, well, I only cook so many nuggets. Those are gone. And now you can have more fruits and vegetables. And so it doesn't have to be either or. You can really have this balance of eating on the go, but then also still supplementing with that color, that fruits and vegetables, that fiber. Those are the 2 things. And healthy fat. You're not really going to find that in most drive-thrus or restaurants. You're going to find protein just fine, but then you're going to have processed carbs, lots of added sugar, lots of added salt, lots of bad fat, quote unquote. So, really finding ways to bring in those 4 components: protein, color, fiber, and healthy fats. That might mean doing a combo of home food and out to eat food. But that's also okay.
I love that. I love that. And I am also a big fan of the steamer veggies. Just whoever invented that really
And the
needs
bag
fries.
salads, like the bag salads where you open the big bag and inside is the little bag. And I literally just like put it all in the bowl. And then I love salad, but I'm not chopping up 17 different vegetables. I'm not doing it. And I'm not making a homemade poppy seed dressing, but that kale salad with the craisins and the poppy seed dressing on it, like, yeah, that one and like some rotisserie chicken, like I'm good. And that's another thing. When you're on the go, you can also explore items that you can pick up and have done relatively quickly that don't involve a drive-through. So we used to live very close to a Costco. It was the closest grocery store to our house, actually. So we would run by on the way home, pick up a bag salad and a rotisserie chicken. One of us would stay in the car with the kids, the other one would run in, just get those two things and leave. Costco with two things I know is unheard of, but for I think the salad was $7 and it would feed us 2 different times. And the rotisserie chicken is $4.99. So for $12, I've now fed my entire family 2 meals that I didn't actually have to cook. Like that's easy. So shortcuts and doing smarter, not harder.
That's amazing. I love it. And I love, so on your Instagram, you talked about frozen pizza, which is another like convenience fast food. That's what we're having tonight. But
I fed it to my kids. I'm a registered dietitian and a family feeding expert, and I fed my kids Red Baron 4-cheese pizza that I grew up eating, and it was delicious and everybody loved it. And I don't feel bad about it. It's not our daily, right? So that's another thing is when we have these convenience foods or these go-to foods, and a lot of people think convenience foods and drive-through food, fast food is only if I'm driving through, right? If I'm in my vehicle getting a bag. No, chicken nuggets, frozen pizza, chicken patty on a bun, chicken melts, like, frozen burritos, all of that stuff. You can have fast food at home. So don't be duped into thinking, oh, well, we ate at home, so we ate healthier. No, you can still have fast food at home, but it's finding that balance of, okay, I know that on Thursdays we get home and we have 30 minutes and then we have to leave for soccer. That is not the day that I'm making like Alfredo from scratch. Okay. That's the day that we're just having the Velveeta shells and cheese. We're going to do some rotisserie chicken and a bagged veggie on the side, and we're going to leave. So choosing wisely, it goes back to that first thing we were talking about, choosing wisely what nights you're going to allow either schedule or mealtime conflict to come in, and what nights you just need it to be eaten and go well and be accepted and move on. And that's not bad. If you only choose one night a week that you want to have conflict and the other nights you're like, we just need to eat. But that's also creating a trust relationship with your children, that they trust you to feed them foods that they like, that are going to fuel them, that are not going to upset their bellies. So then on that once a week that you're throwing in that other one, okay, well, I know that yesterday mom gave me something or dad, but I know yesterday I got a day of meals that I really like. My lunch and breakfast were great today. And tomorrow I'm going to get food. Okay, so I'm not going to eat super great on this dinner, but they're not worried about it because they know that they're consistently getting reliable food that they enjoy. And I know that if they skip dinner tonight or barely eat it, it's okay. I fed them well all day. They're going to eat well tomorrow. It's okay if they say no to the food. That guilt is not on me because we have a consistent habit of making sure we're getting convenience foods and healthy foods and foods that they like and that they trust me for. So that's the biggest overarching thing that I tell my clients is, you have to make sure that you're creating this relationship and this safe place that your kids trust you and they can make decisions. And then it just kind of takes the stress off of us. Then we don't have to worry about it. That's the goal, is to get all of my clients to where they're not worrying at 5 o'clock, what's for dinner? Everyone's staring at you hangry. Mom, what's for dinner? Like all of my clients have a plan. They know what their go-to backups are. Mine's rotisserie chicken and bag salad. But once you have those decisions automated, it takes the stress out of it. And then you don't worry about it anymore. And you can actually enjoy meals with your family again.
That's so smart. I love you mentioning having a planned backup meals. Because sometimes we get unrealistic with what we think we're going to be able to do in that 30 minutes. And it sounds really great on the meal plan when we put it on the meal plan on Sunday. I'm guilty. This week, my husband's been gone and I got too ambitious with what I decided I was going to make. And it has been a disaster. And that's when you end up, everybody's too hungry. And then it spirals and nobody wants that. It's not good.
Exactly. So yeah, once you know how you want to sort of form that plate, what you want to be on that plate, what works for your family, for your dynamic, and then you kind of know what backups you have on hand. Rotisserie chicken and bag salad obviously was when I lived closer to a grocery store and could regularly pick up those things. But now even we almost always have shredded cheese. We almost always have tortillas and a can of black beans. So we do black bean quesadillas all the time. Sometimes I just do it for an afternoon snack because the kids are acting like hangry jerks and I need something more substantial than goldfish. Okay. So
Right.
like that and some guacamole and some sweet peppers on the side. Like I've got a veggie, I've got some healthy fat, I've got a protein, I've got, a main food that I know that they're going to like, so that's one of our go-tos that we just keep on hand because there are going to be times when shit is just going to hit the fan and you have to know how you're going to handle it. So when you have those backups, then you're like, oh, okay, well, I guess it looks like the homemade Alfredo is tomorrow because tonight is shells and cheese and chicken nuggets and bagged veggies. Okay, fine. Perfect. And then you just move on with your day.
And you don't even have to think about it. No regrets.
Exactly.
That's awesome. I love everything that you're saying. I hope that all of this helps families as we're going back to school feel a little bit more at peace with their meal decisions, with what they're going to be packing in the lunch. You gave us some awesome tools, and I'm really grateful. Would you mind telling us about how we can work with you if we want to work with you, where we can find you, all of that good stuff?
Yes, absolutely. You can find me on Instagram or on Facebook at Glory Nutrition. On Instagram, obviously, you guys have probably heard if you are in the social media world that Instagram has shifted over to a video sharing platform. The problem is that if you post to Instagram and you can hit that like share to Facebook, it doesn't share reels to your Facebook. So if you want to get both things, I would recommend following me both on Facebook and on Instagram because those feeds and that content is going to be just a little bit different. So on Instagram, you're going to get quick 15, 30-second videos of do this, don't do this. Here's this shortcut. Here's this helpful hint. Here's this way that my day fell apart today. How about you guys? Things like that are on Instagram. And then on Facebook, I also run a free Facebook group called Smarter Not Harder Meals. And I go in there every single week, completely free, and just bring in content. And we have families in there sharing with each other, sharing recipes. I'm usually bringing in recipes, sharing from other people, bringing people in to do lives in the group to give us information, to give us helpful tips, all kinds of stuff like that in that group. And then those are all the free ways that you can get my tips and tricks and kind of see what I'm up to. But if you want a full intervention for your family, if you just say, Heather, just fix it. I just need you to take a look at where we are and where we want to go with our family. Heather, just tell me how to fix it. Personalized to me. My kid doesn't eat anything, I don't know, green. I need you to just intervene. Then it would be joining the Smarter Not Harder group program. And that has been on hold throughout the move. Imagine that. I did not balance 3 kids and moving 8,000 miles through a military move and also continuing to take new clients. So that enrollment is going to be up later in the fall. So giving everybody a chance to get into some of those routines, sort of get our feet under us before we start shaking it up. But in that program, I teach people how to look at some of their behaviors, generational habits that they want to break, things that we're bringing into the environment in our meals, into our families that maybe we don't realize, and also really deep diving into your values to see what is important to you. What do you want your children to be learning from you? Do you want your children to learn that everything needs to be perfect and you're stressed out if it's not perfect? Okay, if that's not what we want them to be learning, then how does that translate into our meals, into our discipline, into our self-talk? So the Smarter Not Harder Meals program does deal with meals and how to make it easier for your family, but it's more than that. It's how to build those family relationships and how to ultimately save your brain space for the things that are more important in your life than worrying about meals. So I help you make that easier so that you can focus on more important things. And that enrollment will be up, and I will share that on all of my social pages later this fall.
That is awesome. And you guys should follow Heather. That way you can know when she opens up her enrollment, because that sounds like such a great holistic approach to feeding your family. And I'm sure we'll have Heather back as we move through the school year because things change. And I hope that you all will find her. I'm going to put all of the links to all of her things in the comments. If you liked this video and you're watching it now or you're watching it on replay, the best thing that you can do to help us at Hoffman Tutoring Group is to share it with someone who you think would enjoy it. So if you know someone, a mom or a dad who's thinking a lot about food as we head back to school, go ahead and share it with them so that they can get these great tips, and encourage them to like our pages as well while you're at it. And that we just do a happy dance every time you share some of our stuff. So we will see you again next week. I am going to be talking to 2 experts next week. I'm going to talk to Marcel about feelings and talking to our kids about feelings as we head back to school. And then I'm also going to be talking to Dr. Steve Silvestro, and he's going to give us some tips on how to think about health and wellness and keeping our kids happy and healthy as we head back to school. So I'll see you next week.